Hey guys, KrazyEd here, and in this video I wanted to showcase my Assassin Trapper that I played during the Paranda Softcore League this season. I'd like to start by saying that I've never really played a Trapper past normal or early Cruel, mainly because of the multi-trap support. I felt it was very clunky, didn't really like the playstyle, and I feel like it needs to be reworked, especially after playing with the new Cluster Trap support gem, which is, I gotta say, amazing. I was actually blown away at how fun the playstyle was, how versatile, and how powerful it was even into late game. I easily destroyed a lot of mid and late game bosses with just a few throws of the trap, and it made playing a lot of fun because I knew I could ignore a lot of things that make the game difficult later. I chose to play the Trapper for a couple reasons, a couple of which I've already mentioned. I haven't really played a Trapper before. I thought it would be fun, a little bit meta. I was wrong about that. Chaos Conversion is still OP. But also because I knew that the build would take me very far with minimal investment, and that it would save me a lot of currency in the long run as well, because that it could handle so many map mods and I would save a lot rolling maps. Always good to have a build like that in your pocket. So, you might be thinking, Ed, why did you pick Assassin? Saboteur has so many trap and mine nodes. Yes it does. But the chain reaction node is the one I was most concerned about because that's the premier one for traps. It says that when one trap is triggered, nearby traps also triggered. This can be a little bit annoying, especially when you're dealing with enemies like drop bears or devourers or leap slamming goats. When one hits you, or leaps next to you, triggers a trap, all the traps explode, then his friends start leaping in, and there's no more traps. That is not cool. So, with that being said, I decided to go Assassin because, well, power charges. Since we don't have to worry about reflect, the traps deal the damage, and the damage is therefore reflected back to the trap, you don't have to worry about it, so we can just tilt into damage, which is exactly what we do with this build. Every gem we equip is a more multiplier, all the way up through our 6 links. We also get Unstable Infusion and Deadly Infusion to maximize on our crit chance and our crit multiplier. We get lots of it from the tree, but we also get lots of life, and we can actually get a decent amount of evasion energy shield as well, which will solidify our defenses. The playstyle of this build is a lot of strafing, manually dodging enemy attacks, and then lobbing grenades at the enemy, which can be a lot of fun. Usually the enemy gets one volley of skills off, at best, or they run right into your traps before anything happens, and you can walk right by their dead bodies. And now I'd like to talk about the passive tree. I went ahead and started with the elemental damage nodes from the shadow, which is pretty obvious since we're an elemental damage trapper. I went ahead and picked up Trickery, Assassination, and Cold-Hearted Calculation, and then I made my way down to Blood Drinker for some extra life, and then over to Clever Construction. This was the first notable that I wanted to pick up, simply to make my traps immune to any AoE damage, like Leap Slamming Goatmen, or Ice Novaing Shades, or whatever they're called. Simply because traps only have 1 hit point, and that will really help. Next, I made my way over through this path to the Witch area, where I picked up Annihilation, Blast Radius, and Heart and Soul for some extra life. Next, you generally want to go for the Templar area to pick up more life and spell damage and AoE, but you could take some shortcuts over to Cruel Preparation, Quick Recovery if you feel like you need a little bit of mana, or you can also pick up Blood Siphon and the life nodes down here. Once you pick up your main life nodes, you can pick up some extra elemental damage and get Devotion to finish off almost all the life that you'll pick up. Or you can go ahead and start picking up your trap nodes. The best ones to pick up initially are High Explosives, Saboteur for 2 points, or you can go over here to get Trap Cooldown Recovery Speed. If you feel like you need a little bit more damage, go ahead and pick up Frostwalker or Firewalker if you want your fire trap to do more damage, and Blast Cascade. Blast Cascade is very important for building up power charges, along with the Unstable Infusion from our Ascendancy. Now that we're on Ascendancies, I pick up Unstable Infusion first, then over to Deadly Infusion to greatly increase our crit multi and crit chance, and then Ambush. By your early in the mid 70s, you should be able to pick up all of your power charges that we get. You also want to be sure to get the spell damage per power charge. After that, just pick up any crit or damage nodes you've missed, as long as you've got your life nodes, and you should be good to go. Lastly, I'd like to talk about my equipment. I will say that right now my gems are underleveled, and they're not quality, which can go a long way. I'm also wearing a 6 link, but having a 4 link could get you through yellow maps. You won't clear the fastest, but you will have the damage that you need. So let's go over the 6 link first and what I use. I start off with Ice Trap as my main skill, Cluster Traps, and Trap and Mine damage. Those are your first 3 links, and then go with Controlled Destruction. Now, for a 5th link, I went ahead and had Less Duration until I got my 6th link. Less Duration will give you the more multiplier, since all traps have the duration as part of their name, but it actually won't reduce the amount of duration that the traps stick around. Because we were wearing a Sunblast belt, our traps stick around for about 2.5 to 3 seconds before they explode. This can actually help in some situations, like when Kaum summons his ancestral spirits, or against enemies who fly or summon animate weapons. Since they don't trigger the trap, since they're not technically touching the ground, they'll chase you, and it's really hard to kill these enemies. You end up just running around a whole lot, maybe not trying to die. For our last gem, we need Concentrated Effect. This is a huge more multiplier. You could swap it out with Less Duration, since it's more damage initially, and if you can't get your red socket, that's fine. I just happen to go with Less Duration first. Our next main 4 link is going to be Trap and Mine damage along with Fire Trap, Controlled Destruction, and I went with Less Duration on this as well, although you could easily go Cluster Traps like you did on the main damage, or Concentrated Effect once again. Stone Golem along with Fortify and Minion Life is my next 3 link. The Stone Golem gives a nice regeneration buff, plus he acts like a meat stick. Immortal Call linked with a level 3 phase run and increased duration and a cast when damage taken prevents me from dying to bursts of damage from the titty ladies. I'm also using Chain with an Orb of Storms and Frostbite and Curse on hit. I'm probably going to do Enfeeble instead of Frostbite going into higher level maps, but I do like this because it gives an increased chance to freeze, and so more mobs freeze and explode, making it a little bit safer. And lastly, I just have a Flame Dash linked with a Herald of Ice and Clarity. This is a lot of gems, and they're not necessarily required. If you want to manually curse, you could easily link a faster casting with your Flame Dash and your curse in a 3 link setup, and then leave possibly Orb of Storms and your other gems open to anything else you want. Because I'm not using Elemental Equilibrium, I can use a Herald of Ice, and then I just have a whatever level Clarity. Mine happens to be at 7, but you can increase yours or lower it as you need to for some mana regen. My gear isn't all that great and could do with a lot of improvements. I really just went with spell damage and life. I do think that Divinarius is the best in slot for a weapon. It gives good spell crit, good spell damage, and it does have the increased radius. I think Sunblast is required in this build. I really like the fact that my traps act like grenades, and the reduced duration doesn't seem to really do anything. 40% increased damage is nice, although it does kind of lack in resistances and life on this belt. I'm using some Mute Wind Whisper Steps, and because I got them in Parandus League. These aren't required, and in fact, I've really been thinking lately about swapping these out with some good rare belts with movement speed and resistances, although the cold damage, spell crit, and unaffected by chilled ground is very nice. For gloves and helmet, amulet, and my rings, I just life and resistances, just finish everything out and you should be good. For my flasks, I use 1 mana flask, I know, but it's just so I can run no and low regen maps without having a problem. I have a Seething Flask, Instant Heal. I have a Removes Freeze and Chill, a Removes Poison Flask, and a Movement Speed of Movement Flask. So just as a recap, this build was super fun, super cheap. It had a good amount of survivability, plus there's enough room for improvement and variability where you could really make this build your own. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Like, subscribe, leave comments below, and I'll see you out in Rayclast.